Unanimous.
Declaration of
The 13th.
United States
of America, when, of course, human
it
becomes necessary
one people
to dissolve the political bands
with
connected
them with another
and
powers, earth, separate, equal station,
with
laws of nature, nature's
God
entitled
them.
decent respect to the opinions of mankind,
Requires that they should
declare the causes
with
impel
them
separation.
With all
these
Truth
to be self-evident that all men are
created equal,
that they are
endowed
by their
Creator
with
certain alien
right that among these are
liberty
and
the pursuit of happiness
that to secure these right governments are
instituted
among men
deriving
their just
powers
from the
consent
of the
governed
that
whenever
any form of government
becomes destructive
of these
ends
it is the right of the people
to alter
to abolish and
to institute
new government
laying
foundation that
principles
and
organizing powers
in that form as them shall
seem
most likely to affect their
safety and happiness. Prudence
Indeed will
dictate
that
governments
the long
established
should not be changed for night and
transient causes
and
accordingly
experience
hath shown
that mankind are more
disposed
troop suffering. All evils are
sufferable
in troop right insist by
abolishing
that forms troop which they are
our custom.
but when the long train and
Abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably
the same object
evinces designed to reduce
them under
absolute despotism,
is their right, is their
duty
to
throw
throw such government and to
provide new God
for their future.
security, such as sufficient
suffering of these colonies,
such is now the necessity
which constrains them to alter
their form
systems
of government of history that spreads genius embracing is of history repeated
injuries and usurpations,
having for direct
object
establishment
of absolute
tyranny
of these states to prove this less that the
submitted to candid
world
he has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish their right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
He has called together legislative
Body
that places
unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository
of their
public record
for the sole purpose of
the fatiguing
them into
compliance
with his measures
has dissolved representative
houses
repeatedly
for opposing with
manly firmness his invasions on
the rights of the people. It has refused for a long time after such
dissolutions
to cause others to
be
elected were
the legislative powers incapable of annihilation
have returned to the people who are for their
exercise,
the state remaining in the meantime
exposed
to all the dangers of invasion from without and
convulsion
within.
He
has
endeavored
to prevent the population
of these states for
that
purpose
for obstructing
laws
or naturalization of foreigners, refusing
to pass others to encourage their
migrations hither,
and
raising conditions of
new
appropriations of land,
as
obstructing
administration justice by
refusing
his
assent
to laws for establishing
judiciary
powers. He has made judges
Dependent on this will alone for the
tenure
their offices and the amount and payments of their
salaries,
he has
erected a multitude
new offices and
of hither swarms of offices to harass
our people and eat out their
substance,
he has
kept
among the times of peace standing
armies without the consent of legislatures,
he has affected
to render the
military independence
and superior to the
civil
power.
he has combined with others to subject us to the jurisdiction
Foreign
to our Constitution and
unacknowledged
by our laws
giving assent
to their
acts of pretended
legislation for
quartering
large bodies armed troops among us for protecting them by
mock
trial
run punishment for any
murders
which they shall commit on the inhabitants of these states for cutting off our trade with parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offensive, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, for establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to land it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charter, abolishing our most valuable laws, and aggravating fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government hereby declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our cities, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the words of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy heads of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, escaped captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their half. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an indistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every state of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most time of terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. The prince whose character is marked by every act which may define the tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of the free people. Nor have we been warning and attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend notable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war and peace, friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled,
appealing
to the Supreme Judge of the world for
the rectitude
of our intentions to do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are
absolved
from all allegiance to the British
Crown,
and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be stowed away,
dissolved,
and that as free and independent states they full power to
levy
war,
conclude
peace,
contract
alliances,
establish
commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
The early Americans who went to war to gain our independence were a restless, striving, and entrepreneurial people.
They routinely assumed risk to make their lives better.
They judged actions by results and viewed the war as a means to accomplish a purpose.
Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph.
As the dawn broke on Lexington Green, a shout was heard around the world. With that one shot, our nation and our army began its journey to gain the freedom to govern ourselves, to be free to live our lives the way we saw fit. The rapid expansion of our nation from 1803 to 1860 would reveal growing fault lines along issues that the Founding Fathers had deferred. The American Civil War was the result.
This war would last 4 years and be fought in 10,000 places, from Virginia to California and Vermont to Florida, at a cost of over 600,000 lives.
The soldiers on both sides believed in their cause and did their duty as they saw it.
The issues that divided the nation sometimes even divided families, putting brother against brother on the battlefield. We salute the generation of Americans who helped establish the United States as a world power and who stepped forward to safeguard the freedoms we continue to enjoy to this day.
Victorious in Europe in 1918, American veterans came home to a thankful nation and enjoyed a brief period of prosperity.
However, in 1929, the economies of the United States and countries around the world collapsed, and America spiraled into the Great Depression.
The country worked hard to rebound from this catastrophe. In civilian conservation corps camps across the country, Army leaders and soldiers worked side by side with civilians to rebuild America.
The efforts of tens of thousands of Americans not only improved America's infrastructure, but helped prepare them for what came next. World War II. It was a central event of the 20th century. America became the arsenal of democracy and sent her sons and daughters to the four corners of the globe.
In December 1944, U.S. and Allied armies were racing across France after successful D-Day landings in Normandy.
Their resolve and commitment saved the world and changed history.
Pluribus unum, out of many, one.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber